I did not know that 300 miles away, the most feared man in the country had just seen my address. I paid my rent for 4 years. I missed 2 payments and nobody returned one call. What would one return call have changed?
Lock Ashcroft out of every system. Prepare the car. We're going to Chicago.
I did not know his name when he first saw my face. I did not know that 300 miles away, inside a silent penthouse overlooking Manhattan, the most feared Korean crime boss in the country had just stopped eating because a news camera showed him my address. All I knew was that I was standing outside 2214 Falcon Street with everything I owned packed into 4 garbage bags and a duffel with a broken zipper. The temperature was 19 degrees. The feeling had already left my fingers. A reporter pushed a microphone toward me while the eviction marshal locked the entrance behind my back. "How does it feel to lose your home 2 weeks before Christmas?" I did not answer her. I stared past the camera at the 5-story brick building instead. The 3rd-floor window with the crooked blinds had been mine for 4 years. The radiator beneath it groaned every winter. The kitchen faucet leaked whenever it rained. The bedroom door still had a faint blue mark where my son, Malik, had measured his height before leaving for college. Inside one of my bags was a picture he had drawn when he was 7. A square house, a triangle roof, a yellow sun too large for the page. Above the door, in uneven handwriting, he had written, "Mommy's house." Malik was 18 now, staying temporarily with my sister in Atlanta because I had refused to let him watch strangers carry our belongings onto the sidewalk. I could feel that drawing through the plastic bag, like a bruise through clothing. The reporter asked the question again. This time, I looked directly into the camera. "I paid my rent on time for 4 years and 2 months, I said. "I missed 2 payments after losing my job. I called the management office 11 times. I sent 7 emails. Nobody returned 1 call." Behind her, the cameraman lowered his equipment slightly. The reporter's expression changed. What would 1 returned call have changed? Everything. 300 miles away, Do-hyun Kang set down his chopsticks. He would tell me about that moment months later, when we knew each other well enough for him to admit the parts that embarrassed him. He had been eating alone at a dining table built for 12 people. The television was usually background noise. Silence had become too heavy in his penthouse, so he filled it with voices he did not listen to. Then the address appeared beneath my face, 2214 Falcon Street. He recognized it instantly, not because he had ever visited, because he owned it. Do-hyun controlled Baekdu Holdings, a real estate and shipping empire spread across 6 cities, 11,000 residential units, warehouses, ports, luxury towers, and companies whose names appeared in newspapers beside words like influential, secretive, and untouchable. There were also other stories about him, stories whispered in private rooms, stories about businessmen who changed their decisions after 1 quiet meeting with him. Stories about powerful men who lowered their voices when they said the Kang family name. His father had built Baekdu through ruthless alliances. Do-hyun had inherited it at 28 and made it larger, cleaner, and even more feared. But he had never walked through the lobby of 1 residential property he owned. He had never answered a tenant's call. He had never asked whether the heat worked. That was what management companies were for. That was what distance was for. He opened the property file while the news segment was still playing. Unit 3C. Tenant, Simone Ashworth. 49 consecutive on-time payments appeared in green. The last 2 appeared in red. Missed payment. Late fees. Legal filing. Eviction completed. 6 weeks. That was how long it had taken his company's system to turn 4 years of reliability into 4 garbage bags on a freezing sidewalk. Do-hyun reached for his phone. He did not call his attorney. He called his chief of security. "Lock Ashcroft Property Management out of every Baekdu system," he said. The man on the other end hesitated. "Every system, sir? Every file, server and property portal. Nobody deletes a document. Nobody changes a timestamp. Nobody warns their regional director. Yes, Chairman Kang." Then Do-hyun called his driver. "Prepare the car. For the airport? For Chicago." He looked back at the television. My face had disappeared, replaced by a weather report. Tonight. 6 months before that camera found me, I had been someone people respected. I was a senior compliance inspector for Ashcroft Property Management, the same company that managed my apartment building. I had spent 8 years learning to read buildings the way doctors read scans. I knew where water damage began before stains appeared. I knew which cracks were harmless and which ones meant a foundation was shifting. I knew when a contractor had repaired something and when he had only painted over evidence. I was good at my job. Unfortunately, I was also honest. The final report I submitted to Ashcroft was 47 pages long. It concerned a parking structure beneath one of Baekdu's most profitable residential properties. The support columns showed progressive damage. The drainage system had failed twice. A serious storm could place the entire structure at risk. I had flagged it before. Twice, my supervisor told me to soften the language. The third time, I refused. My conclusion was simple. Unsafe for continued use without immediate remediation. Estimated repair cost, $11 million. Estimated legal exposure if ignored, considerably more. 4 days later, Preston Hale, Ashcroft's regional director, called me into a conference room. My supervisor sat beside him without looking at me. Your position has been eliminated due to restructuring. You created 3 new inspection positions last month. Hale folded his hands. The decision is final. Is this because of my report? This meeting is not about one report. Then look me in the eye and tell me it is not. He did not. I cleared my desk that afternoon. Losing the job was only the beginning. Ashcroft made sure I could not find another one. Every application went well until the reference check. Then the calls stopped. Later, I learned what Hale had been telling people. Difficult, disloyal, unable to collaborate. Nothing dramatic enough to prove retaliation. Just enough poison to close every door. I had 11 weeks of savings. By the 4th month, it was gone. I sold my television first, then my grandmother's dining set, then the necklace my mother had left me. I called Ashcroft's tenant support office 11 times asking for an extension or repayment arrangement. The company that had taken my salary still collected my rent. Nobody called back. Late fees accumulated daily. By the time I owed 2 months, the balance had almost tripled. The morning they evicted me, 2 Ashcroft employees stood in my doorway holding a clipboard while I packed. One kept saying he was sorry. I wanted to ask him what part he was sorry for. The eviction? The cold? Or the fact that he had to stand close enough to see the person his paperwork was destroying? Instead, I kept packing. I did not cry. I counted. 4 bags. 1 duffel, 2 bus routes to the emergency shelter, $23 in my account. People think a woman loses everything all at once. She does not. She loses it through calculations. What can be sold? What can be carried? What can be left behind without breaking completely? Do-hyun arrived in Chicago the following morning. He came with 1 driver and Min Jae Park, the advisor who had served his family for 15 years. No visible entourage. No announcement. But when Do-hyun entered a room, people noticed. He wore a black overcoat over a charcoal suit, his dark hair swept back from a face that rarely revealed what he was thinking. A narrow line of ink disappeared beneath his collar. More tattoos covered part of one hand, hidden whenever he buttoned his cuff. He had the driver stop 2 streets from Falcon. "I can arrange a property tour," Min Jae said. "I don't want a tour. Then what do you want?" The truth before anyone has time to clean it. They entered through a side door that did not close properly. The lobby smelled of damp carpet. 1 ceiling light flickered. Do-hyun touched the cold radiator beneath the mailboxes. It was not working. He climbed the stairs and knocked on the first door with light beneath it. Miss Kareen opened it 3 inches, leaving the security chain in place. "Yes? My name is Do-hyun Kang. I represent the building's ownership." Her eyes narrowed. "You represent the people who raised my rent while my radiator was broken?" He looked past her shoulder. A small electric heater glowed beside the couch. "How long has the radiator been broken?" "Since December." "How many times did you report it?" 6. "Did anyone answer?" "They sent me a rent increase notice." Min Jae lowered his eyes. Do-hyun did not. "May I come in?" Miss Kareen studied his face before releasing the chain. She told him everything. The broken elevator. The unanswered maintenance calls, the mold Ashcroft had covered with paint. Then he asked about me. Her expression changed. Simone brought my groceries upstairs when my knee was bad, she said. She checked my smoke alarm herself because maintenance would not come. That woman lost her job for telling the truth, and your people threw her onto the street. My people? You own the building, don't you? He did not defend himself. Yes. Then they are your people until you stop them. Do-hyun stood in her cold apartment for a long moment. His father's voice returned to him. He had been 14 the first time he heard his father dismiss a desperate debtor. A man who cannot pay is not a man I know. Later, his father explained the lesson. Sentiment is expensive, Do-hyun. The moment you feel sorry for someone who owes you, you lose your authority. Do-hyun had carried that philosophy for 20 years. It had guided every negotiation, acquisition, and threat. But standing beside an elderly woman heating her apartment with a machine she could not afford, he finally understood what his father had left out. A powerful man could refuse to feel. But the consequences did not disappear. They simply landed on someone weaker. Before leaving, Do-hyun turned to Min-jae. Relocate every tenant in this building who has no heat. Temporarily? Until the system is replaced. That could cost. Do-hyun looked at him. Min-jae stopped. I will arrange it. Have a contractor here today. Not one recommended by Ashcroft. Yes, Chairman. And freeze every pending eviction across Baekdu's residential portfolio. Min-jae's face tightened. That is more than 300 active cases. Then 300 families will sleep tonight without wondering whether a marshal is coming tomorrow. The council will challenge you. Let them. Preston Hale learned Do-hyun was in Chicago when the elevator doors opened at Ashcroft's regional headquarters. Conversations stopped throughout the lobby. Hale came rushing from a conference room, adjusting his tie. Chairman Kang. This is unexpected. Had I known you were visiting, we would have prepared a complete presentation. I am not here for a presentation. Of course. Show me the eviction protocol for Falcon Street. Hale led him into the largest conference room. Do-hyun remained standing. Hale opened the policy on a wall display. 5-day grace period. Daily late fee. Automated legal warning. Eviction filing. Where is the human contact? Do-hyun asked. Hale blinked. Our system sends automated notices. I asked about human contact. We manage thousands of residents. Individual calls are made as capacity allows. Pull Simone Ashworth's tenant file. Hale's fingers moved reluctantly across the keyboard. Her record appeared. 49 green payments. 2 red ones. Why were 11 calls ignored? We do not have the staffing to make exceptions for every difficult case. She was not asking for an exception. She was asking for a conversation. Hale forced a professional smile. Chairman Kang, this is industry standard procedure. Do-hyun's voice became quieter. Everyone in the Kang organization knew that was when he was most dangerous. Industry standard is a description, Mr. Hale, not a defense. Min-jae placed a folder on the table. We found something else, he said. Inside was my 47-page inspection report. Hale stopped breathing normally. Do-hyun opened it. Simone Ashworth worked for you. Yes, but her position was eliminated during 4 days after she filed this. The timing was coincidental. Your internal emails disagree. Hale looked at Min-jae. Min-jae slid copies across the table. Messages between Hale and Ashcroft executives. Delay the repair. Change the risk classification. Remove Simone from the account. Damage her references if necessary. Do-hyun turned another page. You fired the inspector who identified an $11 million structural danger. You made sure she could not find another job. Then your company ignored her calls and evicted her from one of my buildings. Hale's face had lost its color. The report was operationally impractical. It was accurate. We had concerns about her judgment. My independent engineers inspected the structure at 6 this morning. They confirmed every conclusion. Hale opened his mouth. Do-hyun raised one hand. The room became silent. You used my company's name to punish a woman for protecting my tenants. Sir, I can explain. You can explain to your board. Hale attempted to steady himself. You cannot terminate our regional contract without notice. There are provisions. I am not terminating the regional contract. Relief flickered across Hale's face. I am terminating all 11 Baekdu contracts with Ashcroft. The relief disappeared. That would cost both companies millions. It will cost Ashcroft more. You cannot make a decision that large because of one tenant. Do-hyun closed the folder. She was not only a tenant, his eyes remained fixed on Hale. She was the only person in this company who acted as though the people inside these buildings mattered. Do-hyun found me that evening at Grace Redeemer's emergency shelter. I was sitting against a cinder block wall with a paper job application balanced on my knee. He approached slowly and stopped several feet away. "You are Simone Ashworth." I looked up. He had removed his expensive overcoat and folded it over one arm, but nothing could make him blend into that room. Men like him always looked as though the world moved around them. "Who is asking?" "My name is Do-hyun Kang." The surname meant nothing to me yet. I saw the news report. So did thousands of people. I own 2214 Falcon Street. My pen stopped moving. He did not hide behind careful language. He did not say represent. He said own. "You own the building that threw me outside." "Yes. And you came here for what? To apologize? To take responsibility?" I laughed once, without humor. Rich men love that phrase when responsibility is cheaper than consequences. He absorbed the insult without reacting. "I found your inspection report." My expression changed. "You found what?" "The report Ashcroft buried. You were right about the structure." "I know I was right. I know that now too. That does not give me my job back. No. It does not return the necklace I sold or erase the image of my belongings on a sidewalk. No. It does not make my son forget that I had to send him away because I could not tell him where we would sleep. No. His willingness to agree irritated me more than an argument would have. I do not need your pity. I did not come to offer pity. I need work. I need a door that locks. I need my name cleared so every employer Hale poisoned stops treating me like a liability. Can you do those things? Yes. The certainty in his answer made me study him more closely. Then why have you not done them already? Something shifted behind his eyes. Not anger. Shame. Because until last night, I did not know you existed. That is not the defense you think it is. I know. For the first time, I had no immediate response. Powerful men usually explained why harm was not technically their fault. Do-hyun did not. He stood in front of me and accepted that ignorance could still be guilt when a man had profited from it. "What are you offering?" I asked. "First, temporary housing, not as a gift. As restitution. And after that, a full independent review of your report and employment record. And the job? I will not hand you a title because I feel guilty." My jaw tightened. Then he continued, "I will give you access to a property my own engineers inspected last month. Review it. If you find what they missed, you will name your position, compensation, and authority. You think I need to prove myself again? No." His voice softened. "I think everyone else needs to see what they refuse to see." I looked down at the application on my knee, then back at him. "One condition. Name it." "You do not speak for me." He nodded. "You do not turn my life into a press release." Agreed. "You do not expect gratitude. I would distrust you if you gave it to me this soon." That answer almost made me smile. Almost. The apartment was not my old unit. Do-hyun gave me the keys to 4B, 2 floors above it. The heating system was new. The windows sealed properly. The front door had a deadbolt, security chain, and reinforced lock. He stood outside while I inspected everything myself. 6 months without rent, he said. After that, payments capped at 30% of your salary. My future salary? If you accept the work. And if I do not? The housing agreement remains. I looked at the document. At the bottom, beneath the legal terms, he had added one handwritten sentence. "This is not charity. This is what was owed." I looked up at him. Did a lawyer approve that line? No. I can tell. His mouth moved slightly. It was not quite a smile, but it was the first time I saw the possibility of one. Malik returned from Atlanta 3 weeks later. He was legally an adult, taller than I was, and determined to pretend he had not been frightened. I will not describe our reunion. Some things belong only to the people who survived them. I will say this. The first night he slept safely under my roof, I stood outside his room, listening to him breathe. I had lost 6 months of my life, but I had not lost him. Do-hyun sent me engineering records for a luxury property in Kensington. His team had approved it. I found 2 fire code violations, an unsupported modification to a load-bearing wall, and evidence that a subcontractor had replaced required materials with cheaper ones. I documented everything. 3 days later, Do-hyun arrived at my apartment with Min-jae and 3 executives. I did not invite them to sit. "Your engineers missed 4 serious defects," I said. The lead executive cleared his throat. "Our inspection standards failed," I said. His eyes moved to Do-hyun, expecting rescue. Do-hyun remained silent. The executive tried again. "Chairman Kang, some of Miss Ashworth's conclusions may be excessively cautious." Do-hyun finally looked at him. "She found in 48 hours what your division missed in 3 months. We can review. You will." He turned toward me. "What position do you want?" The executive stared. "You were serious?" "I do not make offers. I cannot honor." I placed my proposal on the table. Director of Residential Safety and Tenant Protection. Independent Reporting Authority. Access to every maintenance record, eviction filing, and contractor agreement. No regional manager can override my findings. One executive laughed nervously. "That level of authority does not exist." "It does now," Do-hyun said. The man stopped laughing. "I also want an advocate review before any family is removed for a first missed payment," I continued. 3 documented contact attempts by an actual person. No daily late fee traps. No retaliation against employees who submit safety reports. Do-hyun read every page. Then he signed. No negotiation. No attempt to reduce my authority. Only one question. "When can you start?" "Monday." That was the first moment I understood that Do-hyun's power was not loud. He did not need to threaten anyone. He simply made decisions other men were too afraid to resist. The Baekdu Council resisted me immediately. 12 men sat around a black table beneath a carved emblem representing the Kang family. Officially, they were executives and strategic advisors. Unofficially, they were the men who guarded Baekdu's influence across ports, shipping routes, and companies that never appeared together on the same report. I was the only woman in the room. The only black person. The only person who had once lived in one of their neglected buildings. A silver-haired council member named Chairman Seo looked at my proposal as though it had offended him personally. "You froze every eviction because one woman appeared on television?" Do-hyun sat at the head of the table. "No. I froze them because television forced me to see what my reports concealed." Seo looked at me. "And now this tenant will supervise Baekdu property operations?" "I am not a tenant in this room," I said. "I am the director responsible for preventing your buildings from becoming liabilities." Several men shifted. Seo's smile was cold. "Chairman Kang, compassion is affecting your judgment." Do-hyun leaned back. "My judgment built the most profitable division in this company, and sentiment can dismantle it." I recognized the philosophy immediately. It sounded like Do-hyun's father. Do-hyun did too. He placed one hand on the table, revealing dark ink across his knuckles. "My father taught every man in this room that fear creates loyalty." Nobody spoke. He was wrong. Seo's expression hardened. "Be careful, Do-hyun." The use of his first name changed the air. Min-jae straightened beside the door. Do-hyun did not raise his voice. "You are sitting at my table, inside my company, challenging a decision I have already made. I suggest you decide which of us needs to be careful." Seo looked away first. Do-hyun turned toward the council. "Simone Ashworth is not here because I rescued her." My eyes moved to him. "She is here because she saw dangers every paid expert ignored. From today, every residential manager answers to her office. Any retaliation against her staff will be treated as retaliation against me." Seo scoffed. "So she is under your protection?" "No." Do-hyun's voice remained calm. "She is the authority you answer to." The room went completely still. That sentence traveled through Baekdu faster than any announcement. From then on, doors opened before I reached them. Not because I belonged to Do-hyun, because he had made it clear that my authority did not depend on anyone's approval. Working together changed us slowly. Do-hyun was ruthless in meetings and strangely careful everywhere else. He never touched me without permission, never arrived at my home unannounced, never used what he had given me as leverage. When executives challenged my findings, he demanded evidence instead of obedience. When I was wrong, he told me privately. When I was right, he made powerful men admit it publicly. I began seeing the parts of him nobody else saw. The man who still ate alone even after acquiring a table for 12. The son who had inherited his father's empire but not his certainty. The leader surrounded by loyal men who trusted none of them enough to speak honestly. One evening, while reviewing old files at my kitchen table, I mentioned the original copy of my garage report. Do-hyun looked up. "You still have it?" I retrieved the pages from a locked case in my bedroom. The paper was bent from being carried inside my coat through the worst weeks of my life. "I brought this to Ashcroft the day I begged them for an extension," I said. "I sat in the lobby for 2 hours because I wanted someone to understand the structure was still dangerous. You were being evicted, and you were still trying to protect their tenants. I was trying to protect people." Ashcroft did not deserve the effort. He held the report carefully. "You carried this into the shelter?" It was the only proof I had that I was not who Hale said I was. He looked at my name on the first page, then at me. "I will make every person who repeated his lie read this. I do not want revenge. Neither do I." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you call destroying Ashcroft's credibility?" "Accuracy." That time, I did smile. He saw it. For several seconds, neither of us looked away. Then he reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand. The question was silent. I turned my palm upward. His fingers closed gently around mine. The most feared man in Baekdu held my hand as though it was something he had not earned the right to keep. Perhaps he had not. Not yet. But I did not pull away. The investigation uncovered more than retaliation. Hale had approved false maintenance reports. He had redirected tenant support funds into performance bonuses. He had ordered employees to close unresolved complaints and change their timestamps before quarterly reviews. Do-hyun's security division recovered every deleted email. His attorneys prepared regulatory filings. I prepared the evidence. We did not need threats. The documents were worse. At Baekdu's annual operating summit, Do-hyun invited Ashcroft's board, industry regulators and representatives from every affected property. Hale arrived believing he had been given an opportunity to defend himself. Instead, he found my 47-page report displayed on the central screen. My name appeared across the cover, unredacted, restored. Do-hyun stepped to the microphone. "For 6 months, Baekdu Holdings benefited from a lie," he said. "An inspector identified a serious structural danger. Ashcroft buried her findings, terminated her employment, and damaged her professional reputation." Hale rose from his seat. "This is a distorted account." Do-hyun looked toward me. "Director Ashworth?" I walked onto the stage carrying the original report. For months, other people had told my story. Ashcroft had called me difficult. The news had called me homeless. Strangers online had called me unlucky. For the first time, I stood in front of the people responsible and defined myself. "I was not fired because my work was poor," I said. "I was fired because my work was accurate and expensive." Nobody moved. The structure I flagged requires $12 million in repairs today. 6 months ago, it required 11. Silence did not remove the cost. It only increased it. I turned toward Hale. "You did not destroy my career because I was wrong. You tried to destroy it because I left evidence." Hale's expression cracked. "You cannot prove Min Jae activated the next display. Emails, signatures, altered logs, reference call notes. Every lie arranged in chronological order." Do-hyun faced Ashcroft's board. "Baekdu Holdings is terminating every contract with your company effective immediately. We are also filing all evidence with state regulators and affected tenants." The Ashcroft chairman stood. "This will damage both companies." "Yes," Do-hyun said. "The difference is that Baekdu will survive telling the truth." Hale looked toward the exits. 2 members of Baekdu security stood there. They carried no weapons. They did not need them. Do-hyun's voice stopped Hale before he took one step. "You are free to leave, Mr. Hale." Hale turned. "But you will leave knowing that every firm you contact will receive the same documents you tried to bury." Hale's face emptied. Do-hyun did not imprison him. He did not touch him. He simply removed the lie Hale had been hiding behind. Within 3 weeks, Ashcroft accepted an independent compliance review. Hale resigned before the board could dismiss him. His professional license was suspended pending investigation. The two companies that had been considering him for executive positions withdrew their offers. The industry that once believed his whispered claims about me now had 47 pages proving exactly who had lied. Justice did not arrive with shouting. It arrived with my name restored to the cover. 4 months later, Baekdu launched the Falcon Initiative. Every eviction filing would now require 3 documented contact attempts, an affordable payment proposal, and a 30-day advocate review. Daily late fees were abolished. Maintenance complaints could no longer be closed without tenant verification. Safety inspectors reported directly to my office. In the first 6 months, eviction filings across our pilot properties dropped by 71%. Tenant retention increased. Emergency maintenance response times were cut in half. Not one family under our review lost its home because of a first missed payment. Do-hyun introduced me at the public launch. He stood before reporters, executives, and members of the Baekdu Council. Some expected him to describe me as the woman he had helped. Instead, he said, Simone Ashworth was never powerless. My company simply placed its power behind the wrong people. He turned toward me. She does not owe Baekdu gratitude. Baekdu owes her accountability. Then he stepped away from the microphone and gave the stage to me. No rescue story. No ownership, no attempt to make himself the hero. Just my name, my work, my authority. That was when I knew I loved him. It frightened me more than eviction had, because losing a home teaches you that anything you trust can disappear. I kept the feeling to myself for another month. Do-hyun, apparently, was more patient than I was. One night, we sat at my kitchen table with 2 mismatched coffee mugs between us. I still do not completely forgive you, I said. I know. What your company did changed me. I still wake up when someone walks past my door. I still check my account before I check the weather. I know. You cannot repair every part of it. No. I studied him. Does it ever bother you that I refuse to make this easier? His answer came immediately. No. Why? Because every person around me spent years making things easy by lying. He looked down at our hands resting inches apart. You were the first person who stood in front of me with nothing and still refused to tell me what I wanted to hear. I had something. His eyes lifted. My name. A quiet sadness crossed his face. Yes, you did not give it back to me, I said. You helped me force people to say it correctly. I will remember the difference. I reached for his hand. This time, he did not hesitate. I do not need you to save me, Do-hyun. I know. I need you to stand beside me when saving myself makes powerful people uncomfortable. His fingers tightened around mine. That, he said, I can promise. 1 year after my eviction, I was sitting in Do-hyun's penthouse when the evening news showed 2214 Falcon Street. The brick had been restored. The fire escapes were secure. Every apartment had reliable heat. The lobby windows glowed warmly against the winter darkness. Then the screen showed me wearing a field jacket, safety helmet and work boots as I inspected the repaired parking structure. The reporter asked what the Falcon Initiative had taught us. I looked into the camera. The system was not broken, I said. It was functioning exactly as the people in power had designed it. We simply decided to redesign it around human beings. The segment ended. Do-hyun turned off the television. He used to keep it playing because silence reminded him that he lived alone. Now the room became quiet, and neither of us hurried to fill it. On the table beside me was the drawing Malik had made when he was 7. The square house, the crooked roof, the impossible yellow sun. Do-hyun had placed it inside a simple black frame, not in his office, not in some public display. Here, in the home where he no longer ate alone. You kept it, I said. It reminds me what an address means to the person living inside it. I looked at him. And what does this address mean? His eyes stayed on mine. That you came back. He reached for me carefully. I let him. The man who once owned 11,000 homes without understanding a single one had finally learned that a home was not brick, rent, or a name printed on a deed. It was safety. It was dignity. It was the person who could sit beside you in silence without making you feel alone. I did not forgive him because he was powerful. I chose him because when he finally understood what his power had done, he used it to change the system instead of asking me to forget. And Do-hyun did not rescue me. He recognized me. There is a difference. If this story stayed with you, comment SHE Reklimed name and subscribe for more stories about underestimated women who rise, powerful men forced to change, and justice that cannot be reversed.